Bitcoin is trading at $97,000. We are just $3,000 away from hitting that magical $100,000 Bitcoin level. So a big celebration here for everyone who believed in Bitcoin, everyone who was early, everyone who held their Bitcoin, who accumulated when all the world was basically against them. People were saying it was used for criminal activity. People were saying it's never going to make it, all this kind of stuff. And look where we are today, almost $100,000 for a single Bitcoin. This means the reality of this is that the majority of people, the vast majority of the entire world population will never be able to afford one single Bitcoin. That time is now past. And it's very possible that over the coming decade, as more and more people now finally put that fear behind them that Bitcoin isn't a real thing, it isn't a currency, etc., the companies, the countries, the governments, they're buying it. Okay, so now it is a race to accumulate Bitcoin, and maybe over the next decade, it's going to go so high that people won't even be able to afford 0.5 BTC or 0.1 BTC. That's basically how it's going to go. At this point in time, I mean, even 0.1 BTC is almost $10,000, right? Most people cannot afford to put $10,000 into Bitcoin. So, again, this is a very, very interesting development, and the next 5 to 10 years are going to be super interesting. The next bear market is going to give you another time to accumulate. How low that goes, I don't know. We'll deal with that once we start the trend reversal, depending on how high this bull cycle goes. But you got to pay attention at this point in time. And why this video is important now also is because even if you missed the boat on Bitcoin, which is now too high anyway to buy, in my opinion, sure, countries, companies that are going to put their treasuries in there, sure, they might do that still for Bitcoin. But any serious person, any whale, any regular retail investor, me personally, if I was buying crypto right now and I wanted to get involved, I'm not buying Bitcoin because what is the upside? This cycle, maybe it goes to 200,000. If it does that, it's already crazy. And that is only basically a 2x. So unless you have millions or tens of millions of dollars to put into Bitcoin, a 2x isn't really going to do anything for you. So what are the other opportunities? Well, that is altcoins. And that is the number one question I'm getting asked right now over the last few weeks. People are just saying, look, every day Bitcoin is hitting new all-time highs. My altcoins are down. They're not moving. What is going on? And this is actually pretty normal for previous bull market cycles. I want to explain that to you in this video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Dirk, and follow my page, follow my channel on YouTube, on Instagram, if you're not doing so yet, so you can get these updates. And if you want to learn more from me, I have a VIP membership where I have all my courses, training, basically a complete beginner's course, a course about trading. I do monthly updates, I write a newsletter. I've got a private Discord group with more than 2,800 members where I'm in there every day sharing charts and updates and answering questions. So if you want to join that, come check it out. The link is in the description down below. And there is still a 50% discount for the next 2 weeks. On December 3rd, I'm permanently doubling the price. So now is still the best time to get in. You get to take advantage of the bull market. You get to take advantage of the 50% discount. And there's a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee. So come and join us if you want to learn more. Link in the description down below. Alright guys, so we are here at almost $97,000 on Bitcoin. The pump has been relentless. If we change this to a monthly chart, look at what is happening here. This monthly candle has been the most insane monthly candle that we have ever had in the history of Bitcoin. You can see the low of the candle this month. At the start of the month, it was at $66,798, and we are now at $96,000. That's a $30,000 move in the price of Bitcoin in just this month. And this month is only 3 weeks old. It's not even a full month. That is insane. So basically, this month, we have had the biggest move in the price of Bitcoin in a single month in terms of dollar value that has ever happened in the entire history of Bitcoin. If you remember 2017, the price of Bitcoin peaked at about $20,000. So basically, the entire history of Bitcoin from 2009 to 2017 that it took to reach $20,000, which is basically 8 years, it did that in 1 month, this month. That's how crazy things are right now and how much the adoption is changing. The ETFs have opened everything up to Wall Street, Everyone can now get in. Funds, pension funds, companies, countries, governments, they can all buy Bitcoin. And that has completely legitimized Bitcoin. And as a result, also the rest of the crypto market by association. So obviously, yes, there's a lot of shit coins and scam coins and garbage in the crypto space. But there is now no denying that Bitcoin and digital assets and cryptocurrencies are here to stay, and they are the future. Which means that now all eyes are here on Bitcoin. And everyone is asking me, why are my altcoins not moving? I'm holding these altcoins for years. They're not moving for months. They're not moving. In fact, the altcoins are even dropping as Bitcoin goes higher. And that is a natural phenomenon in previous cycles. So if you are new, or even if you've been around in the previous 2021 cycle, let me refresh your memory to what happens. So this is probably one of the more famous charts to describe the money flow in crypto over the previous cycles. It's not a 100% certain thing. It's just to give you a general idea. So you have Bitcoin, which is obviously the number one. It's the oldest cryptocurrency. It's the first one since 2009. And then you have Ethereum and you have all the rest of the altcoins. Now, there is a relationship between Bitcoin and altcoins and money flow, and how it tends to go is as indicated on this graphic. So the first phase of a crypto bull market is Bitcoin. It always has been, it always will be. Even in the bear markets, Bitcoin is the one that drops the least percentage-wise, and it is usually the first one to recover. We saw this. Bitcoin was the first coin to really start a new bull market back in January of 2023 already, when it started making higher highs and higher lows. Then we've seen this Bitcoin bull market, and sure, on the way of Bitcoin going higher and higher, we have these little mini bull markets within certain narratives. So sometimes you'll see certain meme coins pump, and then you'll have AI coins, and then you'll have this little narrative and this little niche have its own like mini bubble. But overall, Bitcoin is pumping. And once Bitcoin starts to really break out to new all-time highs, as we're seeing now, we saw it in the previous cycle too, all the attention goes to Bitcoin, all the liquidity, all the new money, all the interest flows into Bitcoin, because that is the thing that's finally breaking out and it's going to new all-time highs. And all the money flows into that because everyone wants a piece of that Bitcoin pie as it keeps going higher and higher. But there is obviously a limit to how high Bitcoin can go, because the higher that it goes, the less potential upside there is. Right? So the higher it goes, the less attractive it becomes, because instead of being able to get a 5x like you could have gotten when you bought the December 2022 lows, when it was $16,000, now it's $96,000. So now the upside potential becomes a lot less. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 100% to the upside. 2x is 100% is 200K. Does it get there? I don't even know. But that seems, far less attractive now. So the higher it goes, the less upside potential there is. And the people who bought low, they will start to take profits. Then they have all that spare cash, but they understand that there is still a bull market. There is the FOMO, there's the euphoria, there's all the retail investors and new liquidity coming into crypto. So if you cash out a Bitcoin and you have those profits, what do you do with it? Well, then you look at the altcoins, which there's literally millions of them at this point, but Ethereum and the other larger cap ones, they're there, but they have much smaller market caps. And due to Bitcoin having pumped so much, the other ones have been kind of even pulling back a little bit. So the ROI potential of altcoins becomes like a 5x or a 10x or a 20x or a 50x. So the smart money who's been accumulating maybe even since the previous lows of the bear market, well, that becomes very, very interesting. And then we start to see this money spill over. So you can see it go from Bitcoin into the other coins. And this is a general path. It doesn't necessarily have to follow this where it goes to Ethereum and large caps and alt season. But what it means is basically the money trickles over from Bitcoin into altcoins, and sometimes it goes to Ethereum first, and then it goes to the much smaller caps, and sometimes eventually even the complete shit coins or the NFTs or the ordinals or whatever the narrative of the cycle is. And why this is important to understand is because I believe it's going to happen again. We are seeing it in action right now. All the money is going into Bitcoin. Bitcoin broke out at the beginning of this month. Like I said, the biggest monthly candle ever in the history of Bitcoin, a $30,000 candle price difference between the low and where we are right now. Eventually, people are going to start taking profits. It's probably happening right now already. But the altcoins are still way, way down. So if you can get enough altcoins and enough people get that same idea, the new retail that's coming in that's seeing Bitcoin all over the news, they think, oh, I can't afford Bitcoin at $100,000. What is the next one? And then all that money starts to flow in as an asymmetric kind of money flow as people start to decide to take action. You know, I get in, you get in, the next person gets in, the neighbor gets in tomorrow, the next neighbor gets in the day after, and then it starts to pump, and that creates its own FOMO, and then we get that bull market in altcoins. So, basically, summary here of what you need to understand is that Bitcoin is pumping, altcoins are not yet, and the massive opportunity difference right now is altcoins. If you are positioned in them, I believe in the coming months, if not weeks, we're going to see big pumps in altcoins if the cycle plays out in previous ways, which I believe there's a very good chance that it will, which means that the upside potential of altcoins could be 5x, 10x, 20x, 50x. So now in the shortest period of time during this part of the cycle, the biggest amount of upside can be made, which is obviously very, very attractive as an investor because you don't want to be waiting 4 years to realize profits if you can do it in a month. Obviously, you know, if you can get a 5 or a 10x in a month's time, hey, let's be done with it. Get in, get out, realize the profits, fantastic. So that is the important part. What I want to do now is I want to take you back into the charts of 2017 to show you how that cycle played out. I was here. I know many of you watching probably weren't, but some of you were here also. And how what is happening right now in the markets seems to me to be much more similar to the 2017 cycle rather than the 2021 cycle. Okay, so what we have here is the chart. It's a daily chart of Bitcoin of the 2017 bull market. The vertical line here in July of 2016 approximately was the Bitcoin halving. So this is important to understand because we can see over here that the Bitcoin market peaked here, Bitcoin on 17 December 2017. So that was approximately 18 months exactly after the halving. That's just an interesting little fact to know kind of timeline wise. And when it really started to move, you can see was October of 2017. Now, there's a similarity here very much, not in terms of the 18-month timing after the halving, but between the fact that it started in October. We have started to see our markets move a lot higher starting in October of this year. And to show you the price of Bitcoin in October of 2017 was at $4,000 approximately. The high of the cycle, not even 3 months later, let's call it $20,000. So it did a 5x. It went from $4,000 to $20,000 in a period of less than 3 months, and it went absolutely parabolic. And sure, you can see there's some small pullbacks on the way, but essentially all it did was just go straight up in one big parabolic move in less than 3 months. Then it peaked, and then it came all the way back down again. And that is starting to look very, very similar to what we are going through right now. We started in October. We were at mid 60,000s. We're basically a month and a half into the third quarter, and we're already at 96. So that's what I'm saying. What if this is repeating in this way, where it still continues? It just continues to rip higher and higher and higher every single week without giving us significant pullbacks, and it just repeats this kind of cycle where it doesn't give people really the chance to get in. Because if you're looking at this at 2017, when it started to move, sure, we had this one dip, but other than that, once it started to go higher, where do you buy in? It just keeps going higher, higher, 10,000, 12,000, 15,000, 20,000. Where do you buy in? You don't get the chance. And that is starting to look very similar to what we're seeing now. We went from 66,000 to now 96,000 without any significant pullbacks. The most we had, I think, was a $6,000 pullback. And people are frothing and foaming at the mouth to be able to get into this, but there's no pullback. What if it just continues? What if we don't get a significant pullback and it just continues to rip? And we play something like this. Now, the reason why this is also important to understand how this worked is, besides the very short duration of this bull market, where we went from 4,000 to 20,000, literally a 3-month crazy parabolic blow of top, and that marked the cycle peak top. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Who knows if that's going to play out this time once again, but it's a possibility, and it's something that you want to keep in the potential scenario toolbox. Keep it in mind, because you never know what's going to come, right? You never know, is it going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, which scenario is playing out. But if this is one of them, I want to know as soon as possible so that I can plan to get out. Because again, like you can see here, once this peaked, it went from 20,000 and 2 months later, it was back at 6,000. So there's a huge boom, but just as quick as a bust. And of course, if you round trip that or if you FOMO by the top, you can get wrecked very, very easily. So for me, it's very, very important to understand all these previous cycles, the potentials, the possibilities, and try and best identify in real time what is happening. And that's why I keep making these videos and showing you previous examples and explain to you how this can work so that you can have the best amount of knowledge and information to make the best decisions for your own investments. Now, I want to show you Ethereum to also give you an idea here of what happened to altcoins, and then I'll show you some of the other things also so you can best understand this 2017 cycle. So what's important to note is that Bitcoin peaked on 17 December 2017. Okay, pay attention to that. So Bitcoin peaked over here. That was the 20,000 all-time high. Since then, it went down only after that peak. But like I said, Ethereum and the rest of the altcoins, we have that money flow relationship. Bitcoin goes first, then the money flows over to altcoins, and we see a crazy pump there due to the different risk reward and the much higher ROI potential in Ethereum and altcoins. So obviously back in that day, we had Ethereum, we didn't have Solana yet, and there weren't as many competitors, and that relationship is different, but I'm just showing you here so you can see what happened to the altcoins versus Bitcoin. So vertical line here, 17 December is when a Bitcoin peaked. And you can see here what happened. Initially, there was a bit of a pullback here, actually quite a substantial pullback in altcoins as Bitcoin also pulled back. That was an almost 40% pullback in altcoins in a period of several days after Bitcoin peaked. But then you can see after that pullback, it went from 500 to 1400. So it basically almost did a 1.5x upside after that. So that was Ethereum, right? After Bitcoin peaked. And then the altcoins went absolutely nuts. I want to show you some examples here of altcoins in a second. But if that's what's happening here, we're letting Bitcoin do its thing. I don't know how high it's going to run. Maybe it goes to 110,000, 120,000. Maybe it goes to 200,000. But eventually, I think something similar is going to happen. Once Bitcoin's attention stops, people take profits, we're going to see that huge speculation on the altcoins. So I'm trying to find some examples of older altcoins that still have the data from 2017. There's not as many, but for example, OMG Go is another example here. That peaked here at the vertical line, 17 December. You can see then after that initial Bitcoin peak, we had a drop in the altcoins, almost 60% along with Bitcoin. And from that low point, we still had a period until the peak of 9 January. So we basically had another 3 weeks after Bitcoin peaked for the altcoins to go on a run. And from the low of that correction to the high, you can see that was a 200% gain in this specific coin in OMG Go already. So after the whole run up, of course, altcoins started to run up as well as with Bitcoin towards the end phase of it. But after Bitcoin peaks, we still had a 200% gain in this specific coin. There's other coins with hundreds of percent, even thousands of percent gains. You can see maybe a good example, if you remember from back in the day, EOS was a coin that was very popular at the time. And you can see similar thing, the vertical line here on the chart is when Bitcoin peaked, 17 December 2017. It had a pullback after Bitcoin peaked, again, almost 80% pullback, which is pretty nuts in the short term. And then we went from there immediately afterwards, a 5x, 500% gain by the second week of January. And then there was even a higher high after that second week of January. A lot of coins pulled back. So again, we had an 80% pullback. And then we had another final run before putting in the top. You can see where we went from here from $4 all the way to $23. That was another 5x. So you can see that after Bitcoin peaked, go and look at some of these charts yourself. Basically, there was another 2 to 5x on altcoins, and these were big at the time. The smaller cap coins, I don't have examples to show you here, but the smaller cap coins, we've seen some of them do it 10x, 20x, 50x in a very short period of time. but just as quick as they went up, they came back down after it peaked. So this is kind of showing you the potential here for what we could be seeing. I believe we will see something similar in terms of an altcoin season. I don't know if it goes along with Bitcoin or if Bitcoin peaks first after this pump is done, and then we see a rotation into altcoins where we see a massive pump in a very short period of time in altcoins. So the takeaway from this entire video is that I believe, number one, is that altcoins are still low, and we're going to see very likely a big pump in altcoins where we see 5x, 10x, 20x or more in altcoins. The second takeaway is that if this does play out, you have to be prepared that this happens very quickly in a period of just a few weeks, where we see the insane pump, and then after it peaks, it comes all the way back down just as quickly. So you need to be prepared, which means that you need to be in before the pump happens, and you need to have an exit strategy when it starts to go crazy and you see multiples like this happen in a very short period of time, to at least remove initial capital. So if you put in $1,000 and it goes to 2,000, you take out the initial 1,000. That way you have no risk to your own money and the rest is a free ride. That's a strategy I personally like to follow. It served me very well because you don't know. It can go up, it can drop the next day again. But if you have your own money taken out, worst case is you lose the profits that you have in, and you never had those in the first place. But as long as you keep your own money and you don't risk that, you're already in a much better position than most people who invest. Okay, and then the second point is, as it goes higher, if you start to see life-changing gains, okay, depending on what you're working with, but you don't know, right? Even $1,000 can turn into $50,000 in these altcoins in this time. But just as quickly as 1,000 can turn into 50,000, 50,000 can turn back into 1,000. So when you see those gains, you need some sort of exit strategy. You need to be scaling out, and at some point, you need to be taking profits. And I'm talking about 1,000 to 50,000. There's people who are working with much bigger money, right? If you put in 50 grand and it turns into 500 grand, or it turns into $1 million or $2 million, again, guys, don't let that greed consume you where you start thinking, oh, I have $1 million now, I just need another 3x to turn into 3 million and I can retire, right? That's the danger that gets you trapped. I've seen many people over the years, over the previous cycles, get trapped that way of thinking. That $1 million that they could have realized, being greedy, waiting for 3 million, that $1 million would turn back into 20K in the next bear market, because these altcoins, after their peak, they can drop 99%. So overall, summarize, altcoins are still very low in my opinion. I think we'll get an altcoin season. Be sure to get in before the pump, and when it pumps, this can happen very quickly. Don't get greedy, have an exit strategy, be able to take profits, realize gains. That's the only way that you actually win in these crypto markets. If you want to learn more from me, if you want to see what I'm buying, what I'm selling, daily chart updates, daily trade ideas, how I see the market, come and join me in VIP. Real-time updates from me every day in my Discord. The link is in the description down below. There's still a 50% saving until December 3rd before I double the prices of my VIP. And there is a 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee, so there is no risk. Join us now. Come and learn. Ride this bull with us. If you're not happy, you can get a full refund within 60 days. The price is double December 3rd. Sign up. Link in the description down below.